Okay, so Daydream, we are building search for fashion. And it may seem weird to do fashion talk at an AI conference at MIT, and yet I argue it's the perfect use case to talk about information retrieval in a space that is deeply personal, requires understanding humans, understanding human taste, vibes, social context, and other human things. And so just let's do an exercise. If you think about it, how many of you most likely have the same phone? Probably like 80% of us here in this room. And high chance that many of us use the same brand of toothpaste this morning. But if you look around the room, even though this is a pretty uniform crowd, nobody's wearing the same thing. In fact, well, maybe except these two guys. In fact, sameness typically is a failure mode. But you're forgiven since you're on a panel. Actually, it's not just fashion, right? It's the same in home decor, music, travel, and even dating. Nobody wants to date the same person, right? And yet, when we shop for fashion, what we do is we put keywords in a search box, and then we endlessly scroll. And that's just no way to shop for fashion. And so now with Gen AI, we finally can do something different. We can finally spend some time to understand what do we want when we shop. And so what I have here is a few queries that I pulled out of our search logs to just give you an idea of how people shop and why, right? So this person is starting a new job. So it's a new role. She's looking for a new wardrobe. This person is joining a new social group, and so she's looking for something to wear that is appropriate socially for this circle. This person is shopping because it's a new season, fall. She's looking for boots. This person is shopping because she wants to look different. And this person is shopping to send a message. So notice that none of these folks are actually talking about the product they want. And so if you take any of these queries and put them in a search box at your favorite e-commerce platform, what are you going to get? You're not going to get anything that's interesting, right? And so that's actually the problem of fashion search. So at Daydream, we often talk about this, the gap between the shopper vocabulary, which is like how we talk about why we're shopping, and the merchant vocabulary, which is usually categories and attributes, right? And so understanding how to close that gap between what the shopper says and what the product is in the catalog, like that's a really, really hard problem of intent. And it requires conversation, several turns of conversation, and yet you have to watch for drift, right? And so at Daydream, when we think about how to solve this problem, we think of it as 4 steps. First, understand intent. And so we tried many different things at Daydream and like how we build this. And the present state is like an ensemble of models, and each model understands a specific thing about human context, a place, a type of occasion, a family versus friends versus coworkers, what does that mean? Seasons, venues, and so on and so forth. So the next thing is actually being able to search and use multimodal retrieval strategies. Sometimes your search is better served with lexical, when you have attributes and categories and keywords. Sometimes visual is much more appropriate when you want to look at a dress and say like this, only red, right? And sometimes a hybrid strategy is much more appropriate. You want to personalize. So when I say chic versus when Eric says chic, it's very different, right? So like our understanding of same words and what we mean by them is quite different. And finally, you have to ground the entire conversation in a product catalog. And sometimes we're looking at millions of products in a database, right? So I want to do a demo of our product, and I want to use this query, revenge dress for wedding in Paris. So what did all these words mean? As I do a demo, just do a mental exercise of how we understand the query. So she's searching for this dress. We're understanding the entities, and our first turn of the products will be, okay, something that you could wear for a wedding, but maybe not quite revengey yet. So she's going to say she's looking for something more chic. How do you interpret chic in this context? We're going to try, and let's see what happens. Okay, so dresses are looking a little bit more chic, and yet still not quite. And so she would like it to be more form-fitting. So she says more bodycon. Looking better. And yet, who is wearing flowers when you want to do revenge? Flowers and revenge just don't mix. So she says no florals. And here we go. Much better. I could believe that. All right. So the next point is, we've seen some good dresses, but there's still a few thousand options in our catalog, right? So at some point, a shopper may run out of vocabulary, and it's better to just start pointing at things, and sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here we have, she picked a dress that she likes, but there are a few things that she want to maybe change about it. So she says more like this. And what is more like this? What does this mean? Is it more satin, more haltered, more? So, but you have some options that kind of look like this. And now is maybe a time to narrow down to prices, right? Because we're still looking at quite a few dresses. So she says between 400 and 600, just like that. Normally in e-commerce, that wouldn't be possible, but you could just refine in text. This is one of my favorite capabilities. Okay. So she picks a dress that looks, okay, this is revenge, for sure. Like this, only red. There we go. And now she would like to just make a few tiny changes and potentially change an attribute of the dress. So we take that one and say like this, only shorter. There you go. So I know I'm short on time, and I'll just switch to something, to my next topic, which is how do you personalize? So typically, engines would watch what you do, observe your interactions, and collect information about you, right? But we at Daydream believe that it's really important to actually tell you what we know about you and let you actually change this. So this is just my fashion passport profile where I get to collect my preferences. AI collects it, I could change it, or vice versa. All right, so this is our playbook. This is how we do fashion search, but it's applicable to many other categories that are taste-driven. We understand intent, we retrieve across modalities, we personalize, we ground the conversation in catalog, and then we refine through conversation. Thank you.
I'll ask you a question. Okay. You can stay. Thank you so much, Maria. As an avid online shopper and fashionista, I really love your product. So one question for you. So we were talking earlier about this balance between writing something in code, writing it deterministically, versus delegating to LLMs. Given the product you have, how do you think about that? Which things do you say it has to be a certain way, write it in code? Which things do you let the LLM kind of go more creative?
Yeah, so this is like both the art and the science of what we do. It's probably the hardest part because the one thing is LLMs could get it much better, right? Like, so every release brings new capabilities, and so the things that you used to have in the stack are all of a sudden could be much better. So we're constantly experimenting and changing. We have a system of sort of like evals that we're constantly running, and we're comparing our current setup with like what could be if we deployed a new strategy, and so we're constantly changing. I think that the hardest part is like, how much do you code as a human versus delegate to the model to decide, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe time for one audience question. Saw that hand right there in the purple shirt. Yes. Hey, Libby.
So how do you search for women-owned retailers or women-forward? How do you search for women-owned retailers or women-forward designers?
So the question's around how do you select around the attributes of the retailers, women-owned or something else?
How do you know that this is something that a human is going to want to search for, right? A women-owned retailers. So at Daydream, we have this idea of fashion knowledge graph that doesn't necessarily tell you the facts, but tells you the structure of the facts that are important to know. And so a brand is an entity in this knowledge graph, and the important attributes about a brand are sort of parts of the graph. And so knowing that something is a women-owned or sustainable or artisanal or something else is like part of the knowledge graph. And that's like, this is something that we're constantly refining. And then back to the earlier point, sometimes we delegate entirely to LLM to just improvise at runtime. And other times we actually specifically say, no, like you need to know these things, like these are the facts, and grounded in facts.
Please join me in giving Maria another round of applause. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.